From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building trains with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the pride.
From the battlefield to the boardroom, this is Dog Tags to Ownership, the podcast where veterans share their journeys from serving our nation to leading in business. Hear inspiring stories of grit, growth, and the entrepreneurial spirit that drives those who've served to succeed. Tune in and take the first step toward your own mission in entrepreneurship.
Military One Percenters, welcome to Dog Tags to Ownership, where once a week we interview veterans who charted a path towards entrepreneurship. Here, our goals are to share resources, advice, and success stories about starting a business, discuss strategies for building financial independence and creating your own path, and most importantly, build a community to support each other through the challenges of transitioning from service life to civilian ownership. Extremely excited to introduce our guest to the show, Javier Guitron. Javier is a 22-year Ranger qualified Army veteran. He spent 2 decades honing his leadership skills with numerous assignments around the globe. Now, Javier has transitioned his tactical and operational planning experience into building and managing tangible assets as a real estate investor and risk management specialist. Javier, welcome to our podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today to discuss your journey turning your dog tags into ownership. How are you doing today?
I am great. And you guys?
Amazing. So before we get into talking about your life after the military, can you first tell us a little bit about yourself and your military journey?
Sure. First, I came from a small town in California, Modesto, California, son of 2 immigrant parents from Mexico. So it goes without saying, culturally, most immigrant parents from Mexico or even that culture, they want to keep all the kids around. So when I went ahead and decided to leave for the military, pre 9/11, mind you, it was a peacetime army, and I was only supposed to do 3 years. And then obviously September 11th happens while I'm in basic training in a medical class. We had to all call our parents and tell them we're okay. I remember my mom asking me, so what's going to happen now? Are you going to go to war? I'm like, no, I'm still in basic training. Well, she was right. I mean, obviously I went to war a few times. And so from that was in 2001, obviously. And then along that way, I will sum my military journey up by being funny. I'm not going to ever say I killed this many people, I did these cool things. I never want to be that person to talk about it because it is just straight funny. Yes, I was in the infantry first. And then I'm going to tell you how I got into special forces. This is how the funny trend happens. In 2009, I went to my first assessment and selection in March. That one was my first one, and I didn't make it. I actually voluntarily withdrew because there is no med drops in that one. You either get taken out after a certain point, or you say, I can't walk anymore, which I said, or you just don't say anything. But I manned up and I said, hey, I can't walk. I'm using my rubber duck as a cane. It's cool. After I healed from that, it was a humbling feeling, that's for sure. After I healed from that, I met up with a friend of mine in Quantico. At the time, I was stationed in Maryland, and he asked me before I left out of his door to the hotel that we're staying in, or I crashed on his couch rather. He's like, hey, Javi, can you come back? I'm like, yeah, what's up, bro? Hey, man, would you go to selection with me? And I'm like, sure, which one? Civil affairs, PsyOps, special forces? He's like, yeah, I want to go SF. I was like, okay, when do you want to go? He goes, October. I'm like, all right. It's like May around this time. So I'm like, whatever, I'm still in shape. I already decided I was going to get out of the Army, so my mind was in transition mode. My friend asked me to go and do special forces selection with him in October. I said, sure, why not? He was kind of scared, so he had a little bit of anxiety. I didn't care. I don't mind helping a friend out. So I show up. I realized the first 2 days during in processing, I was like, hey, Tim isn't around. So let's fast forward to me getting selected. I get selected. I get my phone back. I call Tim. I'm like, hey, Tim, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, why? I'm like, well, you asked me to go to selection with you. I'm here. Something happened to your family? Are you hurt? No. Okay, dude. Just wondering why you didn't come. He hangs up the phone. I text him. Hey, what's up? I said, screw it. I'm hungry. My feet are bloody. I'm tired. I went to go and ate a whole pizza. That's what I did afterwards. And then I get back to Maryland where I was stationed at the time, and I get to my house. I turn on PlayStation because how we got along after we met was we played Call of Duty and we played PlayStation, right? On PlayStation 3 at the time. That's how old I am at this point. And I noticed that he deletes me and blocks me on my gamer tag for Call of Duty. So I can't communicate with him on or play Call of Duty with him anymore on PlayStation 3. So that day that happened, I literally made the conscious decision. I'm not drinking anymore. I'm not playing video games anymore. This stuff's for chumps. And then I realized that my drinking friends are not your friends. Like, no good decisions happen when you're drunk. No good decisions happen when you're hungover. The only caveat to that one was when I was hungover, he asked me to go to selection with him. That was probably the only caveat, was me saying yes, and I stuck it through. That was probably the only one. Again, it's funny. I have a funny career, and then after that, I get to the Q course. I make it to group, and I noticed that I want to like frame this correctly without losing the message here. I wanted to get out of the Army, and I just decided to stay. You know those people that train for their whole lives for something and are like, yeah, I'm here, I did it. Like people who like just say making like Navy SEALs, like that's 6 months of grueling. They kick you in the butt every day. I only had to deal with it for like 19 days, right? To me, it was nothing. I didn't really like want to do it. I just did it because my friend asked me to do it. So when I arrived, I would say like the threshold of, wow, I am like so excited to be here. Mine was just like, okay, I'm here. I just want to do the work and let's go. So there's a very stark difference in my opinion with people who are like, I'm so excited to be here. I'm here. Yes. And me, I'm like, all right, just go do the job and have fun while we're doing it, I guess. And I already came in with like, hey, I just want to do what I need to do and then leave. I'm glad I was that way, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because as I was getting out, I was pretty much like checked out of the military around the 15-year mark. There's no way I was gonna get out. And the time I wanted to get out, COVID happened. So 2020 COVID happened. I hit my like 19-year mark there. I'm like, well, shoot, how's the world gonna be now, right? But even then, I was just so after the 15-year mark, I was very much in I need to build my life outside of the military because I was so checked out. And around 2018, backtrack it a bit, I started buying houses though. I bought 10 real estate properties here in Florida. I bought it when no one was looking. Mind you, the whole time I was around 2018 to heck until I got out, I always had a second job. So if I wasn't a bouncer, if I wasn't doing some form of security, risk management, I was doing it. So as everyone was having fun on the boats, doing whatever, I was silently, under everyone's radar, buying property and earning extra wages. And that's kind of how it really kickstarted my way to leave the military, because I was already in like, I need to monetize my time. I need to know what my time is really worth. And when you get out, what I've noticed amongst my peers, they'll just say yes and volunteer for everything. And then here I am. I sound like the greedy capitalist. In reality, I'm just a realist when I say your time is worth a little more than you think. You just can't say yes to these $15 an hour paying jobs when you're out. Granted, when we were in, if you had a second job, sure, what's $11 an hour? I'm just getting paid to hang out. Because while we're in, if you think about it, you're on the military's time. So I was getting paid every 2 weeks no matter what. So you really didn't feel what these civilians are feeling when they're out. If they didn't work, they didn't eat. Whereas us, when we get out, if we retired, we're going to eat once a month no matter what. All right. So I was already prepping for that. I had really good mentors while I was in. They were telling me, hey, Javi, do not get out without a college degree at the minimum. So I got my bachelor's. I was halfway through my master's and I stopped it out of pure ego because I thought I didn't need it. And here I am, I'm finishing my master's degree just because I knew that I was going to need it to set myself apart from the population. One thing I would absolutely tell anyone while they're in, if you don't get out and you haven't learned anything, how to have a tangible skill that's relatable, that will make money and add value to people and or an organization, you kind of cheated yourself and you should stay in. And what do I mean by that? I was trolling these kids in Germany recently because I'm also a contractor for several companies, and I was there for a month. And I would tell these kids passing by as I handed my phone in, I'm like, hey, are you guys doing any college? I'm like, no. I'm like, because I see you guys on your phone here. What's stopping you from doing like a simple college class with Liberty or Excelsior AMU? Well, I never really thought of it. And then I kind of like tell them every day while I'm there. I troll them. I make fun of them. So they could fire me anytime for being a toxic contractor, I guess. But I was bullying them into being successful. I was like, listen, kids, if you get out without at least a bachelor's degree, literally throat punch yourself. But if you get out and you want to be intentional, have skills besides that, get a master's degree. Dude, it is free. Everything is free after a master's, you got to pay. So it is actually silly that you don't even leave without a master's or some form of trade because the world is not kind to you. I had to like tell them about my friends. Examples. I got friends that get out 22 years, 23 years, star majors, no degree or barely an associate's degree. Nobody wants them. Nobody wants them. And right now, every job is asking for, and I would say like, hey, needs a minimum of a bachelor's degree and even sometimes master's degree for project manager. And I'm like, what does being a project manager have anything to do with having a master's degree? Because I can go ahead and I can make things happen. So you have all these weird guidelines. And then I'm telling these kids now in Germany, it's not your world when you get out. It's their world. So if you don't even know the rules, you have to understand if you're next to an executive or even a project or program manager, if they have their bachelor's degree, if they have their master's degree, if you're not matching that, they don't even want you part of them because yeah, cool. That's military. Kudos. Cool. But in their minds, they're like, well, you didn't do what I did. So I'm going to take the guy with no military experience. Kind of looks like he won't work hard, but guess what? On paper, he looks good. And most of the time they do regret it, but there's so much apathy nowadays for certain company to lose money just because they met a quota of hiring a person with a master's degree. They're kind of stuck with them until they finally have enough of them, right? And I would explain these things to these kids. And obviously to my friends, I'm kicking them in the butt. I'm like, dude, are you finishing that degree yet? What's your problem? And I enjoy getting one of the coolest things, and it's my way to give back to my friends is, hey guys, I got this job here. It's in Africa. Who wants it? Hey, who needs it more? So I keep touch with like a few of my friends. I don't have the bandwidth to keep in touch with everyone I met. So like the few that I do, I see how they're maybe struggling a bit and sometimes they just need to leave the country. So I do like it when I'm able to facilitate them leaving the country, a little bit of reset. Also, they work on a program, they work on a project. Not only do they add value to, but now their reputation is out there. I'm like, hey, look what Paul just did. Wow, these stakeholders never met Paul. And now all these stakeholders, these consultants, these CEOs of these companies are talking to my friend who's like these tech guru, no degree and all, but he has all the experience with the prior companies he worked for to be a person to add value to them. And I can't be more proud of my friends when they take these offers and I hear them doing great.
Yeah. I mean, you've got an incredibly relatable story, I think. I know Julie and I were doing a ton of North and South head nodding as you were telling not only your journey through the Army, but buying real estate, having the side hustle while you were in, and focusing your energy in a positive direction versus the negative one, right? Of like continuing to just get drunk with friends and go on multiple deployments, right? Or just go to schools to get badges and stuff like that. You were actually doing things to prepare yourself well ahead of getting out and separating. And that's something we've actually talked about a couple times on our podcast. And I think, I want to continue to shepherd that, right, with anyone I come in contact with. Think about your transition, not when the Army tells you to think about it, but 2 years out with TAP, but think about what you're going to do 10 years out. If you want to do 20 years, fantastic. Get your pension, have that safety net if that's what you want to do. But think about your transition, and like you touched on, if you don't walk out with a bachelor's, you're doing yourself an injustice. And to get a master's is pennies on the dollar. Julie's got like 3 master's degrees. We've got lots of friends that have doctorates or are working on doctorates. So it's like, even at that level now, the Army's paying you to go get a doctorate before you separate. And that's achievable. And I'm talking about maybe more officers, but I think on the enlisted side, they're encouraging the degree completion and professionalizing the arms, on both sides of the aisle now.
Yeah. Yeah. So Javi, you had talked about you decided 5 years before it was time that you're going to retire, and you started getting into buying real estate. What, I guess, like made you decide that that was the thing that you were going to jump on, was buying real estate? I know Matt did the same thing about this 5 years before you retired, Matt. Or what was the thing, the catalyst that made you be like, okay, I'm going to do this, if there was one?
There is. And again, let's circle back when I said my career was funny. This is another funny moment, okay? I bought my first property ever in Maryland in 2008 when I was stationed there. Notice the year 2008. Got back from a 15-month deployment from Fort Bragg, PCS to Fort Meade, Maryland. I got there and my friend from California, childhood friend, he bought his first house. And he goes like, I got a house, dude. You need a house too. I'm like, I don't want a house. And then obviously peer pressure, I bought a house. Well, I bought it in March of 2008. Guess what happened 4 months later?
Yeah, market crashed.
I bought that house for $225,000. You know how much it was worth after the market crash? 3,000.
Mm.
I want you to know I was 24, 23. I was 23. Oh my God. My heart, like I never felt anxiety before that way I felt like that because I had no control. And I called my realtor. I'm like, what do I do? I was just like, I wasn't crying, but I was like, this is an unknown territory. I'm 23. All I know is going to war. All I know is just chasing girls. All I know is getting drunk. I don't understand this. I was like, I asked my mom. My mom said she'd pray for me. I hung up the phone. I actually remember this now. It's like, I got pissed. I was like, that's not enough. I need more. And I was like, what if I wanted to go somewhere else? How do I sell it? You're going to have to sell it at a loss. It's like, are you kidding me? So I'm like, am I stuck in this house? So that's what, weirdly enough, I wanted to get out of the Army because of that. And I'm like, I guess I'm just going to be stuck here because I can't PCS anywhere else. My God, I remember those feelings now. It's so horrible. As I passed selection after about 2 years, I think it sort of recovered to like 153,000, but it was still like, that's a huge loss, man. And started renting it out. This now we time traveled, right? This was 2008, 2010 when I decided to rent it out and go to the Q course. So let's take it to 2017. I went all in to try to go for the separate program within Special Forces, and my own head got to me. I literally failed some ridiculously easy things that I normally do, and I think I was going through a weird phase in my life, and I own up to it. I would tell all my friends when it happened, hey, I did this to myself, guys. I didn't get screwed. I did it to myself. I knew better. I didn't listen to my instincts. I didn't think things through as I should. I had things in my mind that I shouldn't have had. And I did this to myself. So swallowing that pride, I come back to my house in Shalimar, Florida, I'm still in 7th group at the time. And my neighbor, Tom, he's going to be a key figure. He sees me come back kind of with my head down, and then he knocks on my door and, I'm like, hey, okay. And I'm just like, I'm okay. What can I help you with? I was being very dismissive. Just seeing if you're okay, man. Didn't mean to piss on your Cheerios. And Tom is like 70 at the time, right? Next day, I went ahead and walked over because I knew I was being dismissive, and I was like, hey, I never met you before. I am sorry. I have no excuse. I failed something. I told him what happened. I failed. And then he asked me, hey, why don't you just think about buying houses? And I was like, listen, I have most of my money tied up in this. I have a lot of money in it, but I have a house in Maryland. I don't want another house. I told him what happened. I'm like, well, that's Maryland. This is Florida. Look at the price of these houses. Look, 102,000, 94,000. I'm like, yeah, so why don't you buy? I'm like, I don't want to anymore. I went over and talked to him a bit more. He got to know me a little bit, and he finally convinced me. He goes, tell you what, if you buy your first house, I'll manage it for you. And I'll look for the tenants and I'll do it. Just give me like 100% cut a month from the rent roll. I'm like, okay. So I did that. That was the first one. Then I gave him some more reins and some fiduciary duties, and it was risky. And I gave him access to all my accounts, right? Super crazy, super stupid. I don't suggest anyone do it, but I did it. So he started buying houses on his own in my name and using my accounts. And I'm like, Tom, why is there 20,000 missing? Don't worry about it. I'm like, am I going to kill this guy? I don't know. So I'm thinking that thought was in my head. And then afterwards, after he bought houses without me knowing, I'm like, oh, cool. I guess I gotta go and close on them. Thank you. So I was like, thanks. So he started buying these houses, and then I'm like, I'm gonna buy some on my own. So I started doing it on my own. I'm like, "Look, you can still manage it. I just need to do this on my own." And Tom passed away in 2021. So I'll give him this. He kind of became a little scammy in the end because I brought other friends along. They brought houses as well. He was managing their accounts as well, and there was a lot of commingling of funds. But
Mm.
in the end, I learned a trade. I learned a skill. I learned what not to do. I got up to 10 houses, and I'm like, well, some of my buddies may have gotten a little screwed, but they got their houses. They bought on their own as well after that. And it taught me and it taught them accountability. One, know your stuff. I know when we're in the military, we have these other things to worry about when you really think about it. Learning how to do real estate isn't that hard. It really isn't. Learning how to be an investor isn't that hard, so long as you know the numbers. And once I realized the number formula works for me, and obviously locally, that's what made sense to me to do. And obviously right now, none of my friends that I know that are sane or that are intentional are going to buy a property right now because everything's too high. So, in the end, that's how I got into it, by accident, by a conversation, a funny conversation. And yeah, again, a lot of it seems very accidental, not even intentional, but it kind of morphed into that. And most of it had to do with rapport because if Tom didn't build that rapport with me, I wouldn't have bought my first house here in Florida. And relationships is the currency because, again, if I didn't believe in Tom, even though he was kind of scammy in the end, it taught me a lot. And I taught other friends a lot. And also it gave me a mindset, and it gave me a an ability that I'll never lose, and that will pass to my son, that I'll pass to my friends, or pass to anyone, so they don't have to pay for these weird coaches out there trying to take their money. You can literally learn it on YouTube, or you find me and I can give you the cold hard truth, and for free, mind you. I will never charge anybody for the things I learned. I'm like, this is the whole
Mhm.
cold hard truth. If these dudes are telling you to buy with them, they are feeding you a bunch of crap. This is the formula you want. This is how you want to do it. You got to look at principal, interest, taxes, insurance. And especially in Florida, you have obviously a 10%, 5%, 2% hurricane deductible, little things like that. These are things like they don't teach you this unless you had a mentor, a coach. A mentor is someone that you get for free, and there's a value exchange somehow between you and them. But a coach you actually pay for. I will never be anyone's coach. It feels so scammy.
And I think, there's always that look for that silver lining, even in what a lot of other people look at as a negative situation, right? Where maybe Tom took a little bit advantage, financially from that situation. But like you said, the lessons you learned and the experience you gained put you on a different trajectory. There's lots of sayings, as you know, with real estate, but time is the best thing, right? And I imagine, I don't know, do you still own the Maryland house? I'm curious, and what that's worth today, or if you offloaded that at some point.
I offloaded it in 2021, actually. A sad story to that. The property manager I had up there, Miss Kimberly Runkles, she died after my house sold. And it was sad when I called her number, somebody picked up and told me she died from COVID. I never got to meet her kids or them, but I couldn't have stayed sane without her there as my property manager.
Do you have some advice on doing what you're doing, vice running back to a W-2?
1099, especially with houses, every house is its own expense. So if you're on a loss every year, you don't want to have a loss every year. You just want a little bit. Last year, I actually got money back for once. Okay. I don't want to say how much, but I finally got money back. Usually I end up paying. And that is because I had a good CPA who exhausted the IRS codes. And you just can't, when you're choosing a CPA, it's like choosing a wife. Okay. You have to be very intentional, and you got to know what you're looking for. Do they specialize in real estate? Do they specialize in security? And if they don't, can you teach them? Or can you find someone to link up with them to teach them so you can write those things off that is incorporated with my travels and with my work? Doing that as a 1099 is how you save. The government loves W-2 workers because they don't know, well, we know you make this much. There's no write-off for W-2 other than standard deductions. So we're going to take this much every year, and we like that. Well, guess what?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say F the IRS, but I know their secrets, and that's why I'm 1099. And that is me when I kiss like that. That is me being arrogant because I like it when they don't win and I do it legally. I'm winning legally. That's what's important. You can't play a game without knowing the rules. And I don't mind telling people for free the rules. You don't have to pay no stupid course for me to waste your damn time. I will tell you so long as you're intentional and you don't waste my time.
Yeah. No, and I think people talk about it like, yeah, it's almost like a negative thing, like you're getting out of paying taxes. Like, no, you're actually applying the appropriate tax code and paying less than some other people that are just dishing their money out. So I completely agree with that. And I can't wait. Like, I'm looking forward to the point where my wife's a W-2 earner right now and enjoys what she does, right? But it's one of those things, as long as you're a high earner on a W-2, there's really the advantages of real estate are not as good as they are when that W-2 ends, right? So I'm looking forward to that day as well, so we can take more advantage of that.
Yeah, I think that, and that's why I wanted you to bring up that as well, because there's a lot of people who are transitioning and doing a lot of things that you're doing, such as buying real estate or something they're passionate about. Maybe it's not risk management or executive protection, but it's something, and they are 1099 employees and have their own companies and are able to be contractors for folks. And it's a avenue of business ownership, and I think that that's important for people to hear, because yes, you own your own LLC, you own your own company, but you work for other companies as well, and just get that through the 1099 as opposed to a W-2. So, appreciate you touching on that. And then before we get to our last two questions, because we are getting out of time, is there anything that we did not ask you today that you would like to talk about or provide to our listeners and followers?
Hopefully I added some value. Hopefully people take something out of this and grind. It's gonna be a lonely road. It's not gonna be nice and shiny. If you're okay with being slightly alone, but the divine path, whatever it is, you can do it.
Yeah. No, it was fantastic. You came on like you were shot out of a cannon. So, and I think your candidness and your transparency and authenticity speaks volumes. So if you go back and watch this on YouTube, your opening comments, I think Julie and I were just continuing to nod up and down because a lot of it resonates with us, both owning real estate, both having a transition plan before the Army decided for us to have a transition plan. So the more we can amplify that and beat that drum, I think the better off our service members will be. So my question is, do you have a podcast, a book, or an audiobook that you would recommend, maybe that was inspirational or impactful for you, that you'd recommend to our listeners? It can be really any genre, doesn't matter.
I understand. Originally, just like you, Rich Dad Poor Dad, I started that out 8 years ago. And so, mind you, I'm intense like this about 80% of the day, but I listen to intentional women like Cody Sanchez, Lisa Song Sutton. They're legitimate boss women. They are women who are leaders in their industry, and they are very intentional, and they ask the right questions. I listen to them. There needs to be more men out there to do it correctly like them, but they take ego out of it, and they say it in a way that resonates with me. And like Matt, there needs to be more guys out there to be like, come on, guys, what's going on? These women, to me, I listen to them, and different strokes for different folks, but I draw a lot of the things they do, their way of going around things. I'm like, wow, that makes sense to me. Yeah. That's where I would say listen to them. I believe I think they have what it takes, and they're giving some good content. At least I listen to it, and I've gotten things out of it. So.
It's so good that you said they take the ego out of it, because I recently, probably a month ago, downloaded another audiobook. I'm a listener of books, and I won't say the name of it. I may have already said it on a previous episode, but it's all ego, right? It like comes through in the book in literally every chapter, and I couldn't get halfway through it. And it's a fairly popular book, and I think a lot of people, it resonates with them. But for me, it was just all I'm a manly dude, and, listen to my war stories over and over again. And I was like, oh, this isn't a book about that, but we're going to continue to talk about that. Anyways, I'm detracting from the conversation. So back over
Good.
to Julie, who'll keep us on course.
No,
Yeah.
I think that's awesome. You brought that up, Javi, because I have listened to them and they have a great podcast. And like you said, I call them badass bees. They crush it and they know what they're talking about. So
They
thanks
do.
for recommending them. So our last question of every episode is Admiral William McRaven authored the book Make Your Bed: Little Things That Can Change Your Life and Maybe the World. So do you make your bed every morning?
Well, if you guys ever watch Battlestar Galactica, frack no. Frack no. I don't fracking do my bed every morning. Frack no.
How about your 4-year-old? I'm sure he doesn't make his bed.
He should, but he doesn't.
Well, I'll just say that I would say the majority make their bed that we have on the podcast, but we have many, many successful people that absolutely do not make their bed. And, they have their routines and their habits that kickstart them for the day. And again, it doesn't seem like you lack energy, determination, drive. So I don't think, not making your bed is handicapping you in any way. So, Javier, it was a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thanks so much for reaching out and sharing your stories. And again, authenticity, transparency, candidness, those are some of the terms I would use to describe you and the conversation we had today. So I think our listeners are absolutely going to enjoy this episode.
Military One Percenters, whether you're brainstorming your first business idea, already running a company, or just curious about where to start, Dog Tags to Ownership is the place for you. Please hit that subscribe button to receive all new episodes. Also, if you know someone who has turned their dog tags into ownership, drop us a DM on social media or tag someone. We are always looking for new guests to bring onto the podcast. And as always, Military One Percenters, thank you for your service. Let's continue this journey and working together to write our next chapter. Until next week, keep pushing to turn your dog tags into ownership.
From dog tags to ownership, heroes take the lead. Stories of veterans building dreams with passion, drive, and speed. From service to success, we're here to inspire the quest. Dog tags to ownership, we're the best. Take the pride.